Welcome back to our CSS series. I've given us the course introduction in the last video. In this video, we will be getting started. Hope you set? Okay, let's go. I will start with the syntax. Well, luckily the syntax is easy to understand, and the first part of the syntax is the selector. I repeat, the first part of selector is syntax. CSS begins with a selector to apply the style. After that comes an opening and closing curly bracket that are used to denote the start and end of the styles that apply to the selector. Are you following? Now, everything that goes in between these curly brackets is going to be styles that are applied to the HTML elements that matches the selector. And inside the curly bracket is one or more property value pairs. Each of these pairs defines different properties such as color, font size, width, and more, with a value for that property. One basic example of the CSS syntax will be setting the text color of all H1 elements to red. Hope you're following? Now that we get the syntax, let us understand the various selectors. CSS actually contains many different types of selectors, but the main selectors are elements, class, and ID selectors. I already displayed the element selector in the previous example. I must tell you, any HTML elements can be used as a selector, be it header, article, H1, and others. And this style is defined for that selector, will apply to all HTML elements of that type. The by far most common and useful selector is the class selector. This class selector allows you to select HTML elements based on their class attribute. If you remember from our HTML series, all HTML elements can have attributes assigned to them like the href. A class is just an attribute that all HTML elements can have and is used with CSS to distinguish elements for specific styling. This class attribute can as well have multiple different classes in the same attribute as long as they are operated with a space. So as to select an element by class, we need to use a period before the class name as the CSS selector. This period tells whatever follows is a class name and not an HTML class name. Class are the most used selector because they are perfect for creating reusable components. The last selector, which is the ID selector, is very similar to the class selector, is that it is an HTML attribute, but an element can only have one ID while it can have multiple classes. An ID should also be unique across the entire web page, but HTML does not entirely enforce it. To use an ID as a selector, you simply need to use a hash sign, followed by the ID name, much like how classes use a period followed by the class name. IDs are supposed to be unique across the web page, and each element can only have one ID. Understanding this syntax, and especially the selectors, is highly important and inevitable while styling your web page. So before anything, you must first understand what it is so as to know when and where to use them. Mind you, CSS is not a programming language, it is a creativity-focused styling language for your web. Please ensure you see this video at least twice for utmost understanding before move on to utilizing me. It may seem complex for a start, but I promise you that it is easy. Okay, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for next class. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our platform.